morning, 7th graders. It's Monday, March 1st. Let's see what we're doing today in math. So first off, we are starting a new chapter, and it's chapter 7, which is called Geometric Figures. So you'll see up in the corner, left-hand corner, a new essential question for you. How does geometry help us describe real-world objects? And so specifically today, we're going to look at beginning lesson 1, which is classify angles. And so our learning target for today and actually tomorrow is I can classify and identify angles. So on Friday, after you took the test, I had on the agenda that you could go into 2 different things to just review some angles that you really would have learned back in elementary school in 4th or 5th grade. So you had the opportunity to look in BuzzMath and do a lesson there on acute, obtuse, and right angles. And I also had a short video there to remind you of what those angles look like, as well as in that video, some upcoming angles that you're going to see within the next few lessons. So we're going to start today with some vocabulary. Your crew teachers have the handouts in their mailboxes. They should have received those this morning, and they look like this. So there's the first side. It's a 2-sided worksheet, and the back side. So we're not going to do all of these today. We're going to start some of them that go with lesson 1. And then once we go through some vocabulary, we're going to start to look in the book a little bit and practice some of these examples in the book on page 535. And then lastly, we'll be able to go into that quiz, and I'm going to show you how to measure angles with a protractor. So right now, if you could make sure that the vocabulary worksheet is in front of you, you have a pencil, and then you can pause the video, make sure you have all that ready to go, and then we will begin. All right, let's start to look at some vocabulary. On your worksheet, I forgot to add a vocabulary word that we actually need as well as far as an angle goes. And so down where you see obtuse angle right here, it's a pretty wide row. Will you do me a favor and take your pencil right now and just draw a line, if you can, just cutting that whole box in half. Cut that box in half. So you'll have obtuse angle that is more than 90 degrees, and we're going to leave a spot here to draw a picture. And then drawing the line, again, cutting it in half. Underneath that, I'm going to have you write straight angle. And so I'm going to actually flip to where I'm going to draw these pictures for you. Whoops. Here. So you'll see when we get, after we go through and draw a picture for obtuse angle, we're going to, right underneath that, in that same box, do straight angle as well. I just forgot that vocabulary term, so you're going to want to make sure you're adding that in there, please. All right, let's go back. So we're going to start looking at ray, the first vocab term. So I'm going to read the definition to you, and you're going to take your pencil and you're going to draw the pictures that I draw so you know what it looks like with the definition. So a ray is a segment, a line of an angle. So let me change colors here. Now, with the pen that I use online here when I go through lessons with you, I'm going to have a hard time drawing a straight line. You're going to want to make sure the best you can, try to get straight lines drawn. Please ignore my kind of messiness with it. It's the best I can do with the technology I'm given. You don't need a ruler or anything else. Just do the best you can freehand to get a straight line. Okay, so I'm going to give you a couple of examples of what a ray looks like. I'm going to draw a dot here, and I'm going to draw a line. That is a ray, one example. And we'll talk about what that dot is here in just a few minutes. Another picture I could draw for you. Yeah, I could draw an angle. And I could put that dot right in the corner and show that this is a line coming out the top. This is a ray coming out the top of that angle. And also, this is a ray coming out the bottom of the angle. So there's actually 2 rays here in this picture that I'm drawing you. So you could have it where it just is one ray coming from that point, or if you're forming an angle, you have two rays coming from that point. So first vocab term, a ray, the segment, a line of an angle. Okay, number 2. Okay, vertex. So this little dot that I just drew a minute ago to help me draw the ray, that is called a vertex. So we're going to draw a picture, put that vertex, that dot, and I'm going to draw the same picture that I just really did above. So the definition of a vertex is the point where two rays meet. These are the two rays coming out. This here, that dot in the corner, right here, is called that vertex. The point where two rays meet. And it doesn't have to look like that. You're going to see different pictures when we cover some of this vocabulary or just look at geometry in general. You might have a vertex over on this side where the angles are facing to the left. There's going to be various pictures you will see, various geometric figures we're going to see where there's a vertex in different spots in that figure. Okay, number 3. Congruent. When two angles or sides have the same measure or are equal. So let's talk about when two angles have the same measure. So maybe I do a right angle, a 90-degree angle. So this first angle would be the same as the second one here. Oops. So they're both 90 degrees. So both of those angles are the exact same measurement at 90, so they are considered congruent. Two angles that have the same measure. Or it also says two sides have the same measure or are equal. I could draw actually some triangles here. Remember, do the best you can freehand, because that's what I'm doing with this pen I'm using. And let's say these sides here are 2. And maybe, you know what, on that third side, I'm also going to make that 2. These are congruent triangles. These are congruent shapes. They have the same sides. The sides are equal. So you can have congruent angles, same measurement. You can also have congruent shapes or sides that are the same. Number 4, right angle. Angle that's always equal to 90 degrees. So I drew a few of those up here by congruent. I'm going to just draw it here a different way. I'm just going to turn it around, upside down like this. And typically with a right angle, you see a square in the corner like that, right? So I could draw it this way. I could come back and draw it this way as well. And I'll put the square in the corner. Okay, you see that square? It indicates a 90-degree angle. That is a right angle. The angle always equals 90 degrees. So those are your first 4 vocabulary terms. You should have pictures drawn for those, just like I did in the space provided. Let's look at the next one, number 5. So an acute angle, an angle that is less than 90 degrees. So maybe something along these lines. And maybe I say that this is a 50-degree angle. It's acute, it's less than 90 degrees. It's a 50-degree angle. Or maybe I do something a little bit smaller. And maybe I tell you inside that angle, is 35 degrees. Acute angle, less than 90. So we've covered right angle at 90 degrees, acute angle at less than 90, obtuse angle then, and this is the box here, right, where we're splitting it, right? So obtuse angle, we're going to take the top half of that space and talk about an angle or show an angle that is more than 90 degrees, more than 90. So I'm going to make a wide open angle like this. And let's say this is 150 degrees, obtuse angle. Or maybe I draw one the opposite way. And maybe this one is 135 degrees, obtuse, greater than 90. So in the second half of that box, you should have written in, like I said, straight angle. If you haven't, please do so. They're sharing the same box, obtuse angle up top, straight angle right underneath it. And a straight angle, we're going to write that definition in here as well, is angle is exactly 180 degrees. A straight angle is an angle that is exactly 180 degrees, which means, so with my shaky hand and my pen here, I'm going to try to draw that straight line. So there it is. That's a 180 degree angle. Straight angle, 180, no bends to it. All right, the last two we're going to look at, vertical angle, and we're going to spend an adjacent angle also. We're going to spend more time on these two on Tuesday. We won't really cover them much today, but we'll take a look at what they mean and draw a picture with them. So vertical angle. Opposite angles formed by the intersection of two lines. Okay, so this is just going to be one example. So what I'm going to draw is like an X, and I'm going to do the best I can to make these how I need them to be to show you vertical. And let's say this is angle 1, and this is angle 2. So they're opposite angles formed by the intersection of two lines. Here's two lines that are intersected. Opposite of each other, angle 1 and angle 2 are considered vertical vertical angles. Maybe I tell you that this is a 75 degree angle, and this is also a 75 degree angle. Angle 1 and angle 2 are vertical. Opposite of each other. And if you go back and remember from the first couple of vocab terms, we talked about congruent. Congruent, the angles can be the same. These are both 75 degree angles. Angle 1 and 2 are vertical and congruent. So again, that's just one example of vertical. You'll see quite a few more tomorrow when we look at those angles a little closer than today. And then adjacent angles. Two angles that share a common vertex, side, or do not overlap. So here's one example of that. And we're going to see multiple examples of these tomorrow as well. So I'm going to draw a straight line. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a vertex right here. And I'm going to draw a ray coming out like this. So it's splitting that straight angle. And I'm going to call this angle 1, and I'm going to call the other one on the right here angle 2. Angle 1 and angle 2. So it has to be two angles that share a common vertex. Both of those angles share this vertex right here with the ray coming out. And they have to not overlap, so they are not on top of each other by any means. And they share a common side. So this ray coming out is the side that they share. These are adjacent angles. Angle 1 and angle 2 are adjacent. Okay, so that's where we're going to stop with the vocab for today. So we are going to bring the agenda back up. So the vocabulary sheet, you're going to want to make sure that you put that somewhere safe. If you notice, I forgot to mention this earlier, virtual, the links are here for you. So you can either print those or draw pictures on lined paper, however that's going to work for you. Keep that vocabulary sheet, please, safe. And we'll go back to some more terms within this week. Now what I'd like you to do is go to book page 535. So if you could pause the video, put that vocab sheet away, get your book, turn to page 535, and I will meet you right back. All right, so let's look at lesson 1. This is page 535. So we're going to start to just practice a little bit with what we did with some of the angles on that vocab sheet and some that should be familiar with you. So as we go through a few of these, just notice some of the vocabulary that we did start to talk about are going to be within these book pages here. And so you'll see there's vertex, which we talked about. And underneath, we're going to take a look at the type of angles that we can draw on the hands of a clock to represent each angle. So for example, the right angle at exactly 90 degrees. Now there's quite a few of these here that you could use, definitely. And I'm just gonna show you one, right? So if I wanna take the hands of the clock and, oops, well, it's not working. Let's try that. And show, and this is where it's going to get a little messy, unfortunately. I'm going to do the best I can again. So let's say 3 o'clock is where I need to show that right angle. That's one possibility, okay? 90 degrees, 3 o'clock. You could do a different one. You could do 9 o'clock. That would also show a 90-degree angle. There's multiple ones here that you could show as long as you show that 90-degree right angle. Acute, less than 90. So if I need to show something that's less than 90 degrees, I'm going to stick with my 3 o'clock here, but it's not going to be 3 o'clock exactly. I'm going to make sure it's less than 90. So maybe it's 3:10. Okay, that would be an example of an acute angle, something that is less than 90 degrees. You could have also done 3:05. That would have been less than 90. You could have not done 3 o'clock at all. You could have completed, shown a different time with different, where your hands are facing in different directions, and that's fine as long as it's less than 90. Obtuse, greater than 90 degrees. So I'm going to stick with my 3 o'clock, and I'm going to show, let's say, 350. So that is an obtuse angle greater than 90 degrees. Straight at exactly 180 degrees. So let's say it is 345. Again, that's one example of what you could draw to create a straight angle. Coming down a little bit further, I'm looking at the bike ramp. So just a real world link. The bike ramp that the biker is going on. Number 1, what type of angle is that? What does that angle in pink there look like? Is that a right, an acute, obtuse, or straight angle? Well, it looks like it's less than 90 degrees, right? So we have an acute angle there on that bike ramp. And if it says to estimate the measure of the angle, okay, so we know it's not 90. I would say it's even less than half of a 90-degree angle. So it's not 45, maybe just a little less than that. I would say if you estimated anywhere between 25 to 30 degrees, you're probably pretty close. Now that's just estimating, right? In a little bit here, I'm going to show you how to measure using a protractor. You're just estimating what that looks like. Okay, so let's keep going. So again, you're going to see some more vocabulary. So when you turn to page 536, right? Some of these we're going to get to tomorrow a little bit more. We're going to go to the bottom of page 536 in the Got It, and we're going to take a look at the directions here for A, B, and C. It says name each angle in 4 ways. Then classify each angle as acute, right, obtuse, or straight. So let's start with letter A. Let's actually classify this angle first. So letter A, we see that little box, that square box in the corner. A would definitely be an example of a right angle. Now, when it says to name each angle in 4 ways, if you look, this angle has letters labeled on here and a number. And so we can take angles and classify them based on what we see and how they're labeled. And so what I mean by that, we can call this angle 2. So that 2 in the corner right there, we can absolutely call that angle 2. We can also use the letters. Okay, so if I go alphabetically in order, this is angle A, B, C. Now I can also go the opposite backwards and say this is angle C, B, A. And there's one more way. So also in that angle, that corner where we said we can call this angle 2, well, we can also call it by the letter that's just there, angle B. And so 4 different ways that you can name that angle that you see pictured besides just a right angle. We're going to do the same thing for letter B. Now this one is definitely not a right angle. This is greater than 90 degrees. So in letter B, we have an obtuse angle. And so now again, let's think about the 4 ways we can name this angle. So we can go with the number in the corner of that angle. This can be called angle 3. We can also use the letter. So in that corner, you see angle S. It's an S, not a 5, angle S. You can go and use all 3 letters that are there and go alphabetical order. So angle RST, or backwards, angle TSR. Okay, letter C. This is a 180-degree straight angle. And so if we think about, even though it doesn't bend, there's still a center point on that angle. So you'll see in the center there that we could call this angle 4. Again, that's where the vertex is. That's where the center point is. That's where the angle would be if that were to bend, angle 4. And also there for the letter, we can call this angle M. We can use all 3 letters again alphabetically. This could be angle L, M, N, or going the other direction, this can be angle N, M, L. Okay, so I'm going to have you try some. So we're going to go now to page for the guided practice. No, actually, let's keep going. Go to the independent practice. So independent practice is going to be on page 539. 539. Just double checking. Yep, 539. And you try right now at the top 1, 2, and 3. You're going to do the exact same thing that we just did in the Got It's. So classify each angle, acute, right, obtuse, or straight. Start with that. And then name each angle in 4 ways. Pause the video, try those 3, and then when you're ready, check your answers. Okay, there are your answers for 1, 2, and 3 in the independent practice. So just check to see how you did. And then we're going to move on. So, as far as what we've covered today with vocabulary and just reviewing, again, this should be a review what an acute, right, obtuse, and straight angle is and how to name them. We're now going to take a look at a different video and we're going to look at measuring angles. So, we're going to end with the book and the vocab today. This video is going to stop. You're going to look on the agenda and find here where it says measure angles. Watch this video. I'm going to show you how to do that in that quiz, and then you're going to practice that. So I will meet you back here again on the next video in a few minutes.